Alrighty. Hi you guys, this is Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video. It is a wonderful week. It's my birthday week, so of course it's a wonderful week. It's been really nice. I hope you guys are having a good one. If you are new to this channel, I would love for you to come visit my website. There's a lot of information there, and it's just a great kind of hub of connection so that you can find out more about my teaching, my masterclass, the curriculum that I offer for online modules, as well as any personal sessions if you'd like to connect with me one-on-one. Okay, let's jump into the question for the week. It says, "Hi Rachel, can you do a video about how to tell the difference between the energy of spirit and just the environment of others or others' energy? I am dominantly clairsentient, so I don't always see or hear, but I do have all the other clairs active. This can get confusing for me at times because I know there's an energy shift that's happening." Yes, so when your body's talking a lot, how can you tell what's talking to it? So for those of you guys that don't know, there's a little bit of technical information in her question. So clairsentient, just to clarify, is one of the psychic senses, and it is the psychic sense of being able to feel non-physical energy. An empath is a type of clairsentient that feels emotional energy, but there's also the sensational aspect of, heat in the body or tingles or chill bumps in the arms, or feel when you walk in a room like there's spirit here, someone's been here. There's a sense of picking up on the non-physical information that's around you. If that's you, that is the psychic gift of clairsentience. So when she says, "I'm dominantly clairsentient, but I have all the other clairs active," that's what she's talking about. We typically, just as humans, will have one psychic sense that is the most dominant. Similar to when you are in school and they go through the different learning styles. You may be more of an auditory learner, right? You listen to an audiobook and you've got it down. Or a visual learner, you're like, draw me a picture and a graph or something, then I'll get it. Or maybe you're a reader, right? Where it's like you just need to read and then you remember the information. Or maybe you're kinesthetic and you need to touch it. You need to do an actual chemistry project or a lab to get the concept through physical action. So there's different types of learners, and these typically correspond with our dominant type of psychic sense, okay? So all that being said, this is a great question for clairsentience. And when I teach each of the psychic gifts in my masterclass, and even when we talk about mediumship, when we talk about clearing, manipulating energy, all sorts of things like that, then we talk a little bit about how to engage with the energy that you're feeling. Because to me, when I read your question, this is the next step that you're asking about. Like, once I know it's there, how do I differentiate? How do I find a common language or a common way to know what is certain things and essentially get a catalog of what it is I'm experiencing, get some organization there. So there's lots of ways to do it. I'm gonna be honest. I'll give you a few. How about that? I'll give you a few ways that I know to do this, and then maybe just feel into what resonates with you. Okay, and you may like a certain technique better and then just go in that direction, or maybe you try them all and see what works for you. So the first thing I would say is, if you have the other clairs active, speak to it. So energy that we come upon that is an entity, that has a form, has a higher level of intelligence to it. So there should be some ability, if you have clairaudience activated, or telepathic communication, which can often be a level of clairsentience and claircognizance and clairaudience kind of blended together, okay? So you're picking up on communication, but sometimes you're feeling it more than hearing it. But I would speak to it. I would speak to that entity or that energy and ask if it is in fact an entity. If it can't respond or has a very low level of intelligence, then it's very clearly environmental or in that space of someone else's. Sometimes it's attached to someone else or someone else's energy that you're just kind of picking up on if you're highly clairsentient. So that's the quickest way, is if you can use your clairaudience, just address it and ask the simple question. The other way I would say is that there are differentials just when you begin to learn the subtleties of energy that you can identify, okay? Broad-based energy that is associated with what you said, like an energetic shift that's going on in the world, or sometimes we'll feel planetary shifts and a lot of astrological influence. Sometimes it's the influence of the household or the collective culture that you're a part of, or other people's energy. When you feel these energetic shifts, they move more like clouds or vapor wafting. And so the energy itself is more diffused, right? So think about like a mist or diffused lighting. It's not the spotlight. It's softer and it has a broader span, okay? So if you're highly clairsentient, use the awareness of the subtleties of how that energy feels. Stop yourself for a second and then notice, does it feel more like a cloud, right? A vapor or a mist, a diffused overall energy in this space? Or does it feel more solidified, like a singular experience? Now, sometimes you can actually feel the difference. I'm using your dominant here, clairsentience. You can actually train yourself to feel the difference from almost like an energetic movement, right? So think of sound waves as if you walked into that diffused vapor and you create ripples of energy. So you'll feel it essentially shift by the direction you move towards it, or maybe you move away and it suddenly gets cold. It's more singular, it's more pointed, it has more form to it, okay? Same with energy that maybe darts around the room. This is a higher level of intelligence oftentimes, and is telltale a sign of an entity or energy versus just that general diffused shift that you might feel. Let me think. Yeah, I think that movement is a telltale. I know I mentioned that, but I'll highlight it a little bit more. Like when you're trying to clear, say you're getting your sage and you're clearing your room or your office or something, and you notice the energy, it feels like it kind of moves from one side of the room to another, to another, to another. There is intelligence that you notice that is trying to escape what you're doing or has a sense of combating or fighting against. That is a typical sign of an entity rather than just a dense, heavy energy. Okay, energy will sit like a fog or like a cloud, but it doesn't have any fight really when you're trying to clear it. The only exception to that would be energy that is sticky, just because the actual texture of how it's connected to the individual feels almost like a rubber band or like taffy, right? Or like you pull it off and it kind of slaps back. But it doesn't have movement like this. Like I'm gonna jump around, or you go over here and I'm smart enough to evade you and I'm gonna go over here. Do you see the difference? Okay. So I would utilize your skill of feeling and heighten it when you're around energies that you want to be aware of. The next thing I would say is you can create kind of a clairsentient code or a language within your own dominant psychic sense. If your dominant psychic sense is clairsentience and the feeling, then you can create a code or a way of speaking to spirit through that clairsentience, okay? Meaning you can get it to speak to you and say, you know, I don't know, depends on how you feel energy. Like maybe you feel hot and cold flashes, then you can say, okay, if this is an entity and I'm speaking to an entity or dealing with an entity, flash cold, chill bumps over my body, if that's an easy one for you. Depends on how, like I said, you feel energy, but you can create a code that's very binary, and I always suggest that when people are starting out, even with mediumship, if they're not comfortable using their clairaudience or clairvoyance or claircognizance, then you can start with your clairsentience and just feeling what a yes and no feels like in the body and the sensation. Heat and cold, those are easy ones. Or if you can feel the movement, you can also feel the sense of shape or size. Show me your shape, feel for it. literally. And the shape may be large and diffused. Again, if there's not a sense of reaction or intelligence and even being able to engage with you, that's a clear answer, right? Okay, and then I think the last thing I would say is that you can always go, instead of speaking directly to the entity or the energy itself, you can always go to your higher self and the connection with your own inner being, your inner guidance, your own higher connection. And through that dialogue, you can understand what's happening around you. You can really use your higher self as insight into all realms and all of the psychic senses, because it's the multidimensional aspect of you that's always in the non-physical realm and present with you now, right? Because there is no time or dimensional space that separates. But that experience can be utilized, and you can just ask your higher self. Once you learn to trust that type of communication, it can be just really easy and instantaneous in the way that you speak and communicate and know what's what, and just developing that higher self trust and awareness. If you've never developed that, that is what oftentimes we call intuition and our conscience. It is often our bit of wisdom that comes from us, and we're like, where did that come from, man? That sounded really good, and that's not normally how I would speak. This is the sense of your higher guidance and higher self-integration. Some are more integrated than others. Sometimes we speak and it feels like the wise part of ourselves is a completely separate entity, and sometimes it is integrated and we can feel the sense of speech and light coming through in all that we do and say. So that's my last piece of advice, is to really hone in on your trust and correspondence with your own higher self. From there, it really knows no limits. So I hope that's helpful to you. I will be back here next week with another video. Bye, you guys.